Konene. So by-elections really happened on the 27th of November. That was last month, and afterwards sasa kumekuwa na the whole debate. Tunakunga tulikuwa na Oroba hapa. Oroba akasema that according to yeye the by-elections were rigged, najua. But jana kuna vile kulikuwa na a whole meeting where Ethekon alienda pa meet like a few people that were involved in the elections, and it ended up being a very interesting conversation. Nataka tubaki tumecheki hivi alafu turuke back to story ile pia na relate to 2027 ikiwa ni story na Okoa Uchumi, and because that was also like something really interesting that happened yesterday. So wacha tuanze na story ya elections.
It turned out to be a tense public lamentations forum as candidates, observers and voters decried the terror meted on them by political goons before, during and after the November 27th polls. The candidates, winners and losers, narrating their ordeal as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission took stock of the just concluded high-stakes election.
As I talk, after voting, I could not go home. After I was announced the winner, my family cannot access home. And we are here playing like, is it Gunism ni mchezo tu?
The political violence, I think IEBC should take charge completely. They've got the rules and regulations governing the election.
Ni hard sana kwa mseka mimi kuignore history ya sound kwa na hiyo shida mwishinda kwa nayo. I don't think it's such a complex problem that such a big organization like IEBC can't be able to give us like clearer sound. So but yeah, so umecheki Aroko hapo akiteta, umesikia MC anateta anasema that ameshindwa kwenda home. Why? Because these things are turned into these violent events that, yes, elections in Kenya, it's normally a life and death situation, especially considering that the politicians know that this is the quickest way to wealth. Najua, you don't have to work. One day you are just a normal person, you become a politician, and then you become like a dollar millionaire in a few weeks. And this has been normalized. That's why unachikiwa sekaki na Malala kawa wamejam. Hawajajam because all of a sudden they've discovered they know what's good for Kenya. Wamejam because the meat was taken from their mouths. Wacha tuendelee.
Governing the election.
The head of these goons are the police service. That is the truth. I have had incidences where I was accompanying my party leader in different incidences where the police are actually part of the goons.
The observers and the media also detailing how they were caught up in the grueling political contest, pointing to a grim picture in the 2027 general election.
I saw weapons that I have never seen, and as a woman, I am here to speak about women. I witnessed women going back and did not vote.
You always call on us to come and cover your events. But whenever there are political activities, we do so in fear. Because when going for that assignment, at the back of our minds, we know that we'll either be attacked by the police, the politicians, or the goons.
And that's very true. Unapataga, like kuna events that the politicians don't want covered, and the politicians will end up using goons. Nacheki, wanaweza sema hata fake news. Your phrase to your fake news can end up putting like journalists at risk. And then when you look at also the police it depends with what they're doing. If they are committing a crime, they don't want that covered. So who becomes the target? The journalists. So hii historia Zubedia, kuzeni KEG, Kenya Editors Guild. Yes, this actually makes sense that as journalists wakienda hapo wanakuwaga at risk.
If 22 by-elections can have the effect that we had, especially in terms of malpractices, what do you think is going to happen in 1,882 polling areas or electoral areas in 2027?
The police, who are blamed for allegedly standing by goons who ran amok in polling stations, defending the officers for their conduct.
I don't know whether those goons have specific labels for the officers to know that these goons belongs to the government, these goons belongs to the other party.
As for the goons, as I have said, they have got no space here, and we are not going to allow, not under my watch.
Hii kitu inakuwaga funny sana because if I look at Kanja and Kanja's watch, I see, what do I see? I see the goons that were there on June 25th. I see the goons that were there after June 12th. I see the goons that were there on Sabasaba. So history ya kujitetea that not on my watch. We don't believe you.
And I'm going to be very strong.
The electoral body also dismissing claims of rigging in the election, as has been advanced by the opposition.
To steal election in this country is an impossibility. These returning officers here can confirm to you, even observers, honest observers will tell you.
IEBC now plans to build on the lessons learnt from the by-elections to prepare for the 2027 general election 20 months away.
I think for your story, I understand your place Ethekon anasema that to steal an election here is impossible, but I think the way to do it is kuna madha moja amebongajia the fact that there was so much chaos that a lot of people ended up going home. So that ends up being voter suppression. Voter suppression can be a way to influence an election, where if people feel that they are not safe voting, a lot of people will feel like they'd rather stay home. So I think that's the thing that Ethekon needs to address. Like, how will people feel safe in 2027? Safe enough to show up and vote. And this, of course, it's a good lesson to have 2 years to the election. So that's one of the positives that I can take from whatever happened on November 27th. So yes, that happened. But still, when this was happening, I guess maybe after this was happening, pia kulikuwa na another thing. There's this newspaper that was being launched that looked like the Standard. I remember looking at it and wondering, like, what do they mean by this? And yes, so, but the launch itself to me was confusing because I expected this to be somehow independent, najua, because it was the People's Audit, but it ended up having a lot of political influence where I saw politicians from the opposition. So with that in mind, I'm not 100% sure how we should take this information. Should we take it like information really true, ama is it information that's influenced by the political side? But wacha tusikize.
Billed as a duel between the constitution and corruption, the Okoa Uchumi coalition raised alarm over the gross mismanagement of the country's coffers.
She's right on that very end.
Tracing what it termed original sins, highlighting the widening gap between political promises and economic reality, and expressing concern over the growing political stranglehold on state institutions.
Then we are also calling on Parliament to move very fast. Start with a motion and ensure that we start securitizing our levies.
This is very interesting to hear because Parliament right now is just an extended arm of the executive, and that's what it's been. And imekuwa just one of those things where politicians have always asked people to vote 6-piece. So this 6-piece comes at the price of no accountability, and that's what's happening right now. So as much as some politicians have left the government, others have joined in. So right now Parliament is, I don't think it can do anything.
Levies have been set up because they are a special purpose vehicle. If we deviate from that and must borrow for something else, then surely Parliament must come and take charge of that particular process.
There is need for supreme audit institutions such as the Office of the Auditor General of Kenya to engage citizens and civil society organizations in order to enhance audit impact and strengthen overall public accountability. After all, who gives the scorecard at the end of the year on how the budget has been implemented? It is a person who is directly impacted in their lives or in their livelihoods.
Yeah, so you could take the Auditor General here was interesting. That's why I'm saying, like, up to here, I have no problem. Hapo mbele ndio nilianza kuwa na shida, and you don't even think for Nancy Gathongo. I don't think when she was coming here, she knew that it was going to be turned into a political event hapo mwisho because of what it was turned into. And but yeah, wacha tuendelee.
So the citizens are the ones to give the scorecard.
Mtumishi ni kupimia ya ngapi?
The People's Audit by the Institute of Social Accountability cites the widening gap between tiny ultra-rich minority and a vast population living in abject poverty, a ballooning public debt, and the continued erosion of constitutional safeguards as key factors preventing the country from achieving its rightful economic potential. The congregation gave opposition voices a platform to challenge the plan to sell Safaricom shares, raising concerns over the lack of public participation.
History of Safaricom nakumbuka nilibongaga juu yake, and the first time that I had Dede Nyoro talking about it, and he was talking about shares. And it was interesting that now yesterday on Citizen, someone else said the exact same thing nilisema. And tutakuwa tukicheck hiyo before, but as we go into this political period, it's I think it would be good, it would be prudent for politicians to use a certain level of insult intelligence yetu, especially on how things work, because au jisifu anasema this, then you're like, no, that doesn't work that way, especially vile Dede amekuwa kibonga juu ya stocks and how stocks work. Stocks don't work the way anasema. Just because a stock was worth a certain amount of money last year does not mean that this year it goes high. And I always give the example of Polaroid cameras zilikuwa worth a lot, then what happened? Smartphone kakuja, poof, zikabaki zimeanguka. Nacheki, I'm sure hata come to TVs, there must have been a company that used to make cathode ray tubes. Na hizi TVs kwa zinakuwa na haga kubwa, then watu wakafigure out LED. What happened to the business ya cathode ray? So the price today does not mean that tomorrow it's going to go up. Nothing. Samgina even kibonga jua real estate musemaga, like nothing in life is guaranteed. Hata history susemaga ti real estate will always go up. No, it won't. There's no guarantee. Like life, the market is the market, and it's this thing that can swing in any way. Ekonene. So the festive season is here. Na Lemfi wako na a very great offer kwako. Abaki umesign up ukitumia the promo code Ekonene, and on your first transaction ya $50 ukisend home, unabaki umepata a $20 sign up reward. Najua $20 sign up reward on your first transaction of $50 only. Why? Because it's the festive season. Baki umechangamka, tumia promo code Ekonene, ingia Lemfi, why? Upate the most competitive exchange rates, alafu pia inakuwaga ni chap like transactions ziko instant. Changamka haraka, Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Ekonene. Najua we can only predict, but our predictions don't always go the way we want them to go. But wacha tusikize.
The sale of the 15% stake GOK owns in Safaricom, part of the 35 you own as public. The current negotiation is giving Kenya a raw deal, and the consideration is an undervaluation. If there is no incompetence in the sale of the 15% GOK stake in Safaricom PLC, make the process competitive.
Your part na kubaliana nayo. Your part ya make the process competitive instead of just selling it to Vodacom. Can it be made competitive, and then we see who's going to give, because ina ni remind wanaitwa nini US kuna vile Warner yuko inauzwa ama inauzwa, and Netflix wali offer, was it 72 billion, alafu by jana the information that I had was Paramount had offered over 100 billion. So they really want the deal, so they decided to offer more, and I feel like the same would happen with Safaricom. Safaricom has been this very profitable company. A lot of us are like, there's no way for us to leave Safaricom. Like we'd want to in theory, but practically we can't, so we are stuck there. So I understand the aspect of let it be competitive. That would make sense.
Come on, let's be factual. Why is it being hidden? Treasury mandarins did not know about this transaction until a few days ago. They did not know. It was structured elsewhere and presented to them. So we need to ask ourselves, why is Vodacom always interested in opaque, non-transparent transactions? Have you ever heard of Safaricom bidding for frequencies in this republic? They have never. Airtel bidded for their frequencies.
The united opposition also utilizing on the opportunity to fold the government over the socio-economic status of Kenyans.
So hapa ndio nacheki nikiona characters like kina Seth Panyako, and then I remember that goon in quotes of his, the one alikuwa ameshikwa, hapo sasa ndio anaanza kuget a certain level of unease. Come back to stories of Safaricom, but like kina Panyako, okay.
Imagine it's about your health, about education, about the environment you work in, and about the things you care most about. It's about the state being able to implement the rights, basic needs that are in Article 43 of the Constitution.
The current regime, if that entrepreneurship and bottomish continues and is left unchecked, you cannot auction off to yourself what belongs to the people.
So kuna hiyo aspect pia nimekuwa nikisikia that these things that are being sold, they are being sold to Ruto and his cronies, which of course is not a good thing. But yes, wacha to go back to your story niko nasema. So kama ukuwatch last week nikireact to his story, I ended up talking about how, at least from my knowledge, how stocks work. And stocks go up and down. And the principle inakuwaga ni buy low, sell high. So the government is not selling high, it's selling low. But whoever is buying is doing the right thing. They're buying low. So in this scenario, it's the government that's doing the wrong thing. But still, you cannot, hawezi buy stock leo, ama hawezi kuwa nauza stock leo, alafu ambie mtu niaje, since price last year ilikuwa hivi, then unafaa kunipatia bei ya last year, ama bei ya last year but one. Life ama nini, stocks don't work like that. And I think kuna msee fulani alikuwa Citizen ule alienda pa kusema the exact same thing. Calling nisikia last week nikibonga Joy story. This is just a confirmation.
His second point is he's uncomfortable that in 2021 the price was 45 and now it's 28, and the proposal at 34 is neither here nor there. I mean, he's saying why is every other share in the market going up to the point that we are seeing 200% appreciation in price, and Safaricom is not responding as well. On this one, I will say that, number one, when you're doing a sell, hapo alitudanganya, you do not go 3-4 years back to look at the price then. Yep. You go to the market as it is, and then you look at the price at that time. And I'll mention on that on valuation.
And maybe, I don't know if this example makes sense, but neza pati an example ya nakuwaga mtu napenda electronics sana. And electronics zinakuwaga pia some things that show you how prices change in the market, how the prevailing conditions of a market happen. Back in the days, first time that 4K TVs zilikuja Kenya, I remember this was around maybe 2012, 2013 hapo. A 4K TV used to go for 650,000 shillings. 650,000 shillings. Right now, unaweza pata the same TV, same size for 80,000 shillings. This is less than 8 times. And so hizo prices zimeenda chini. So msana uza TV saizi 2025. Hizi kama aseme like, but hizi TV 12 years ago tunaziuza 650,000. Yes, but things have changed. So if the Safaricom stock was going for 45 shillings, I'd want to know why it went down, because Safaricom has always been on the up and up. But sometimes if there are too many people selling, of course, what's going to happen? Yeah, price lazima iende chini. Acheki, there are too many sellers, so that's the reason. But wacha tuendelee.
So the idea that someone has meddled with the price of Safaricom, I think, is a bit far-fetched and is political sensationalism, because really what drives prices in the market is supply and demand. When the shares are too many, there's oversupply, the price falls, so that then people can develop appetite. And when the share goes up, when the demand goes up, the price goes up with it, so that then people can gain value out of it. So
yeah. So yeah, niko nibonga juu story, and I felt like this guy maybe did it in a better way than I did.